Good evening and welcome to the North Andover Old Center Historic District Commission meeting. Prior to the meeting, I would like to start the meeting by reading an order from Governor Baker concerning public meetings conducted virtually. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the North Andover Old Center Historic District Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for per the order. A reminder that persons who would like to participate may do so by watching your television on Comcast Channel 99 or Verizon Channel 28, or by visiting www.northandovercam.org. Okay, so the meeting is now open. So if we look at our agenda, the first thing on the agenda is to call the meeting to order. So can I have someone make a motion to call the meeting to order?
I call the meeting to order. It's Leslie Frazier.
Hi, Leslie. Thank you.
Hi.
Can I have a second?
I second it, Kathy Siska.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, this meeting is now called to order. Is there any old business? That's the first thing. Second thing on the agenda, any old business that someone would like to bring up prior to us starting review of the applicants? Okay, then the first applicant we have for a certificate of appropriateness is for 137 Andover Street. This will allow for the addition of handrails and illumination of the building. So if I can ask Elizabeth, who is representing the application, to give us a brief description and walk us through the supportive documents. And when you do that, could you just please identify the documents that are in the share drive as they are titled so that the public may follow along. Actually, I take that back. I'm sorry. It's a little bit of an odd day for me. Prior to us looking at the certificate and having the hearing, I do have to make one other announcement per the governor's order. So a statement at the start of the public hearing. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this public hearing of the North Andover Old Center Historic District Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but the public can listen to this meeting while in progress by viewing www.northandovercam.org. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments, if they wish to do so, during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by emailing your questions or comments prior to or during the meeting to hazanoian@northandovermass.gov. Again, that's hazanoian@northandovermass.gov. Okay, so now the first application. Elizabeth, do you mind
of course.
taking us through the general application?
Sure thing. So good evening to the commission.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Soul, and I'm a project manager at the Stevens Coolidge Place, and I'm here with the property director, Kathy McDonald. If it makes sense, let's start with a discussion about the handrails. So I'll start with a walkthrough of that. So in the document, that is the application for certificate of appropriateness, I've attached a few items to the end of that application. So I'll give everyone just a second to open that document. The goal of this project is to have a handicap accessible route from our handicapped parking spaces to the first floor of the historic house, 137 Andover Street. It's one of the core missions of the trustees to have our properties be accessible to all. And so this is an important project for us. Previously, there had been no accessibility into the house itself. And we believe we found a pretty good solution. So the proposal has about 11-foot run that is an earthen ramp. So there's no aluminum ramp or artificial ramp there. It's just surface. And handrails on either side just to meet MAAB code, which I've also included at the end of my certificate of appropriateness document. So the earthen ramp and the handicap rails reach up to the existing patio that's adjacent to the house. And we looked at a couple of different options for how to get an accessible route up to that existing patio. We ended up at this location for a couple of reasons. First, there are two significant views to the historic house from the garden rooms. For those of you who are familiar with the Stevens Coolidge Place, the legacy garden called the Perennial Garden has an iconic view to the historic house. So we wanted to keep any sort of handrails out of that view. And then from a new garden room, we're going to Promenade, which is on the southwest side of the house. And you can actually see it in plan in the documentation that I've included here. We wanted to keep that view open as well so that there was a clear view to the house. We also felt that this was a good location because the handrails are primarily hid from view of Andover Street because of the existing stone wall that runs about 6 feet tall along the length of Andover Street. And you'll see in the section that I've drawn the relationship between the existing stone wall and the proposed handrails. So that stone wall hides the rails pretty well. So I'm happy to take any questions specifically about the handrail itself before we move on to discussing the facade lighting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, so I'm going to open it up for discussion, Elizabeth.
Okay.
And one thing prior to going into discussion, and we'll go around to the various commission members, is can you just briefly tell us the selection? So there are different materials that the rail could be configured out of, correct? And you've chosen this material that you're sort of illustrating, right? The rounded sort of impact. So can you just tell us why you chose these and what brought you to sort of where you are in the design?
Sure.
Excuse me,
the-
Harry.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Roger here. I can't see these documents for some reason.
Me neither.
Yeah.
So did you open up the application for certificate of appropriateness?
Is
I
that
don't
in
even
the
have that.
I don't know where that is. I was looking in my email. I don't see that, Harry.
Nope, me neither.
I found it on the agenda under the town of North Andover and our meeting tonight.
You
I
mean you
had
have to go to the town of North Andover website?
No,
I had to go to the town of North Andover to the
okay.
meetings, and then to our meeting.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And then I found it on the agenda there.
So it's
Roger-
not on the invite.
Hold on. If Roger sent everyone the link, if you open the link, that gives you the agenda. If you go to number 3 on the agenda in blue,
No, I
is
can't.
the application for this particular project. If you click on that, it will take you to the share drive. And then within the share drive is all of the documents to this application.
Yeah, well,
Harry,
Ryan
this is
Sharon
Lori.
sent
I
it,
just emailed it in the link.
Okay. Thank
Ryan
you.
Sharon just sent it in an email to everybody.
Harry, would you like me to share my, do a present now and share my screen?
Well, I think if everyone has the agenda, they should be able to click onto the share drive.
Okay, Harry, I found it. Thank you.
Okay. How about anybody else? Does everybody have access?
no, I don't have it.
Okay. You have the agenda.
Nope.
Okay. Hold on one second.
Harry, if you want, I can resend that link I just sent.
Well, yeah. Laurie just resent it.
Okay.
Kathy, did you get Laurie's email?
Nope. I got no email. Looking right here. Oh, wait a minute. Okay.
Harry, Harry, would it help to have Elizabeth share her screen for those that can see it?
I don't.
I got it now, Harry.
Okay.
It's Kathy.
Okay. Okay. Everybody's good?
Yes, Harry, thank you.
Yes, I've got it.
Okay. All right. Can you open up the document that there were several documents in there. But there's one, the ADA handrail and path.
In the application for certificate of appropriateness _137 Andover PDF, there's a few things. I can run through basically what's included in this package. The first 2 pages are just the certificate itself. And then the second page has 2 different drawings here. There's one that's an elevation. So you can see the relationship between the historic house, the existing patio, the stone wall, and the proposed handrail.
So this is Ryan. I'm just gonna sorry to interrupt. On the link, it's not all in one file. It's all separate files. So the one you're talking about is the first one. It says ADA handrail, and I can't read the rest of it because it's cut off. And path lights, and that would be the first link that I think you're talking about.
Right.
Thank you. So then beneath that elevation is a plan view. And so then you can see the relationship between the handrail, the accessible route, and the stone wall, and then Andover Street just beyond the stone wall.
Can everyone see that?
Yes, yes, very clearly.
Yep.
So also in that package, I'm not sure if this is also a separate document, but I have a photo, and I've done a very bad rendering of what that handrail might look like on site. And so that also, you can see the existing stone wall there, you can see the existing patio, and you can get a sense of what that handrail will look like on site.
Yeah, just for those in the link, that's the last picture that's in there.
So, Harry, to answer your question about materiality,
Yeah.
so I've included the Mass Architectural Access Board requirements, code requirements about the design of the handrail itself. So
Correct.
things like clearance and, let's see, how do I mean, it's page 7 for me. There's at the top of the page, it says Architectural Access Board, Section 24, ramps. And
Yeah,
underneath it
and
says-
wait, hold on one second, Elizabeth. For
Okay.
everyone else who has all the photos, it's the second row, last document all the way over to the right called ramps 24.00521 Architectural Access Board. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
That's what she's talking to, this document right now. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Elizabeth, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. So you can see in this document that the design of the handrail is basically dictated by code. The only things that we have control over really are the finishing of the rail itself. So it has to be this extruded metal because it has to have a certain shape. And all of this is sort of broken down in this very lengthy document here. But so the design decision that we've made here, because our hands are tied to a certain extent, is we are proposing to finish the extruded metal with a black powder coat. And generally black disappears visually in the landscape better than any other color. So we're really trying to have this be as visually unobtrusive in the landscape as possible. Does that answer your question, Harry?
Mhm.
Are the knobs
have-
wood?
Well,
Are the knobs wood?
go ahead. We're going to open it up for discussion now.
So my question is, are their knobs wood? They look like they're textured in this rendering.
So I think what you're referring to is 24 ramps, and then there are some diagrams of different handrails. So that's the condition when the handrail is attached to a building. If you go to the page above that, is what a freestanding handrail looks like. A freestanding handrail doesn't actually have those little knobs. So a freestanding handrail it has to be a continuous surface. It has to have extensions at the lower level landing and then the upper level landing. And it has to be 2 different heights. So there needs to be a continuous surface at the 34-inch height as well as at the 18-inch height. So basically the elevation that's shown on that page is exactly what it has to look like.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question. If people are supposed to be going into the house and they get out the ramp, are you expecting them to just walk it in the house, or are these wheelchair accessible, or what?
So this is a wheelchair accessible ramp. And then we're still figuring out how to ramp into the house itself. Kathy, I know that you're familiar with the house.
Yeah, I am.
We're looking at the rear entrance. That's our primary visitor entrance. The idea would be to make that visitor entrance universally accessible. So we would have a ramp there as well. So folks who are in wheelchairs would be able to go up that earth ramp with the handrails on either side and go across the patio and then to that visitor entry.
Okay.
So you mean that the wheelchair people are going to be able to go onto the first floor in a wheelchair.
That's right.
What about the second floor?
The second floor would require a elevator, and that's a very intrusive thing to do to a historic house. So it's not within our purview right now to be able to make the second floor accessible.
Okay.
So when they come up the ramp and they cross in front of that door and they're wheeling to the back door that you're saying you're going to make the threshold accessible, are they able to, is the railing continued across that space, or does it end after the ramp?
No, the railing only has to be the length of the ramp itself. So once you're
So
on the patio, there's no rail across the patio.
So so they just have to wheel themselves across the porch to the back door?
That's right.
Other questions?
And that's an even surface there?
Yes, yes, it is.
Any other
So
questions?
Harry, this is Ryan. Elizabeth, appreciate you putting all this information together, specifically the picture to show where it's going to be with the rendering. And I think it's great you're making it handicap accessible. Where I have a little bit of I wouldn't say problem with it, but maybe a opinion of it would be that just the black railing, I don't think is in line with what that house presents. So I just did a quick Google search of what other people have done, and they've taken that black railing that has to be the continual loop, like you said in the the code, and they've dressed it up where they put like a railing with balusters on the outside of it to kind of hide that black metal railing. I'd love to see something that kind of hides that, so it's not so plain, so that it maybe brings in a historic aspect of it, but you still have that loop and meets code and everything like that. Just something on the outside, just to dress it up a little bit. I just feel as though this is something that doesn't go in line with what that house is. And you guys have done amazing things to that property, and I would, think that maybe we want to dress this up a little bit. I don't know what others' thoughts on that are, but.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan. It's kind of stock looking.
I can picture what you're talking about with the basically vertical connection pieces between the top railing and a bottom railing. Is that right?
The ground, probably.
Like a fence, sort of.
Yeah. So what I actually saw on just a quick image search on Google was it's an actual like plain railing where railing with balusters, white railing on the outside of the handicapped loop rail, for lack of a better term. So that looped rail is attached on the inside to the railing and balusters to kind of hide that black loop, so that it looks historic when you're looking at it from the side, but when you go inside, it's got everything there for people to be able to grab it.
Okay.
And the balusters go from the top rail to the ground, right?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah. Do you have a picture that you can just send her for an email? That would be probably helpful. I know I can picture what you mean. You mean from the outside it goes to the ground, so it looks like a regular.
Right. I'll try. The one on Google isn't that great. I'll try and find a different one and send it along just to give you an idea.
So I will say that I've installed these handicap rails in a lot of locations, and the design that we're showing here visually really disappears in the landscape. And I understand what you're saying is that it feels a little stark. But if you add more ornament to it, it becomes much more visible in the landscape. And so I suppose that's a question for the commission, is whether you want this to be an element that's visible and an intentional part of the landscape, or something that really disappears.
I would think you could dress it up with some plantings, right? That would help hide it.
I agree with that.
I think the way that it's designed now, I wouldn't want to add plantings to it, because that would draw more attention to it. The very simple extruded metal that's powder coated black is really the best way to get it to disappear. And
Well,
then-
I have to agree with some of the comments that it's stark, though. It is actually, it does stand out as a different architectural element. I mean, it does stand out on its own, even though it's black.
Yeah.
This is Leslie Frazier. Are there plantings under those windows on the front of the house?
No, that's just lawn.
Okay, it's just lawn. And what will the surface be for the wheelchairs to roll on?
It's a stone dust material, so it's a very fine stone
Okay,
that compacts really well.
and it's not paved at all.
No paving here.
I think
So
I
in the-
agree. I think I agree with Elizabeth that that the black is going to disappear more. I think calling more attention to it would detract from the house. I think in the long run, this won't detract from the overall look of the house. It's minor in scope, and it's a kind of thing you can look right through. If you add white balusters, you're really going to attract attention to it. And I think that's not what you want to do, because that would detract from the house. Only my opinion.
So this is Kim. I have a question. You on this photograph where you overlay with what the black will look like, you've got dirt there. Is that just going to be lawn? You're not going to landscape that at all on the side?
That's right. So we're trying to limit any changes to the landscape directly adjacent to the house. So in that area that's dirt now is actually now all sod. So it's lawn. And the idea is just to keep that as, flat and visually unobtrusive, to keep those views of the house open. So everywhere where you see dirt in this picture, it's actually already sod. They sodded it about a month ago.
And you think that low-lying shrubs, low shrubs are obtrusive?
I think it would draw attention to it. That's sort of my my experience is that when you have something like a handrail and you want it to really disappear, you just want to make it as simple and as possible. If you would rather see vegetation there, that's another question.
I mean, you have a full property of gardens of all kinds. So to me, it is consistent with the property. What you would choose would, mesh with something low lying to that area, but you have a whole property of gardens. So I guess I don't see it as obtrusive to what the property is already.
I think it looks rather stark. It's too bad we didn't have the grass already in our photo.
I could send an updated rendering if that would be helpful to the commission. Again, I'm no artiste, but I can, it does give a sense of what it will look like.
Mike Lenahan, any comments?
Elizabeth, could you also send, so if you're going to do that, will you send an updated picture from the front so that we can see what you mean by unobtrusive? So if you send it from the front with the lawn, from the side, to me, it's noticeable. From the front, maybe the disappearing part will be more evident.
Absolutely. That's a really good idea. Let me put that together.
Oh, Elizabeth, also, you mentioned that you had done this at other projects. Do you have pictures of the existing and other projects with this same railing?
Sure. Yeah, I can send other images. Yes.
Thank you.
Who hasn't commented? Laurie?
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with Elizabeth as far as trying to visualize it. Just being like not calling attention to it because we could add something extra and it might visually look appealing, but it would take away from the original architecture of the house, I think, a little bit. I do think the black is probably the way to go. And as far as plantings, I could also see how that it might, be something that we would do to our own homes, but it could, make the ramp itself a focal point of the property. Whereas that's not really what it's been in the past.
This is Kathy. This is Scott. I also had a question. The path in front of the wall, is that stone dust too? And where does it go?
Yes, it's also stone dust. If you look back at the ADA handrail and path lights page, which I believe was #1 for you all, you can see in the plan view that path connects to what we call as what we're referring to as the promenade, which is a new garden room that's on axis with the base of the historic house. So you can see there how it kind of connects to the overall circulation.
This is Mike. Can I ask that some people turn off their extra microphones so we don't go to
Elizabeth, this is Ryan again. With the new entranceway that you're doing out the Chickering Road, well, most of the people I'm assuming will be directed towards the back of the house versus the front now. Is that how it's going to work?
Yeah, so whereas in the past, folks have parked in that Chestnut lot and then crossed Andover Street and entered through a gate in the wall along Andover Street.
Yep.
The now visitors will drive in off of Chickering, park, and access the property that way, so through the back. So that's exactly right.
So with them coming from behind the house, if they were to do a house tour or something, would it be that they're going around to the other side of the house coming into the house tour, or would the main path be on this side of the house?
So the main path would still be on this side of the house. The way that the overall circulation, the proposed circulation for the path from the new parking lot to the house itself actually uses that promenade. So that is the primary way that our visitors are going to access the house, is from that promenade. So there will still be access up the stairs, up the back that we have now. That will still be an access point. But we expect that if someone is going to take a house tour or a daily visitor is walking through the property, that they will access the house from the promenade side.
Okay.
Or
Thank you.
access that patio from the promenade side.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions or discussions?
I have a question on the rendering. It's the I don't know what page it is. I've just got them all continuous. It's the plan and elevation, handrail, and path lights.
Yes.
So what does those 3 circles represent that are in front of the wall and before Andover Street? Are those the next topic of discussion, or are those vegetation?
That's existing street trees.
Trees. All right, and then in one of your photographs, got vegetation around, looks like the wrought iron railing to the doorway, and a garden or low shrubs there. That's the front. right? Yeah, that's the front. And then you've got a higher bush on the corner, left corner. Yeah, I would like to see a picture, a photo from the front, with your sketched in black railing to see what you mean about the disappearing.
Okay. I can
Okay.
also send a photo of, I can send a photo from Andover Street, and then you
Yeah.
can see that the railing is not going to be visible from Andover Street.
Yeah, Andover Street's what I meant, from that front.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
that's what I meant.
I can send that photo. But
Yeah.
there you wouldn't be able to see the railing from Andover.
Yeah, the wall's in the way.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, like I said, the one that's here is a side view, and that's, to me, all I see is dirt and the railing. So that's why it would be good to see from the street.
Elizabeth, would you want to share that picture of the side view?
I want to do a rendering first, Kathy, so that it has the proposed railing in it, and then I can circulate that to the group.
So for the purposes of this application, what I'm hearing is that people are asking to sort of get a little bit more visualization through a rendering of what the proposed railing would look like. Is there fundamentally any reason why we wouldn't vote on the railing, or do you want to see the railing? Because, you know, by code, they need to put a railing. I mean, are we talking about just how aesthetically the architectural element of the railing is going to be in contrast to the house? Because a handicap railing is something that will have to be put somewhere.
So for me personally, I think the choice of location, the powder coat black, all that makes sense. I think for myself, and I think I've been convinced against the balusters, but I myself would like to see more pictures to see if as part of the proposal, we do think vegetation is helpful, or if we agree that it's not needed. So, I mean, the metal itself, the location, the materials, that's not a question on my end. It's more the plan in general. I would like to see if I agree, or if we agree that vegetation is not really a suggestion that would improve things, or if some of us still think it is. So it is sort of still the plan.
Mm-hmm. You know, I hear you, and I hear the other commission members. But vegetation is not something that we can technically vote on. In our bylaws, the vegetation that they choose or not choose to either mask or not mask is totally up to the residents within the district. However, if it's significant, meaning it impacts the district in totality, in terms of how it is in relationship to other properties and the whole of the district, then it comes in to be a factor in terms of how this commission can look at it. But discrete masking of shrubs or no shrubs, you know, we can recommend that. We can say we would like to see that, but we cannot put it into the motion. Let me just say that. An example would be on Andover Street, the Learys, when they put in their ground solar panels. You know, they chose to provide us with how they would mask, sort of with shrubbery, those solar collectors. But in essence, whether they did that or didn't do that was not something that we could rule on. So that's why I'm trying to get to.
I thought it was anything that could be seen from the street view impacted the district.
Anything that can be visually above ground level, but not,
Right.
we do not govern, for example, their planting regiment on the property, where they put trees, where they don't put trees. Now, if they were to put an orchard in within the district, within the setback, and that orchard is out of place in terms of how congruent it is with the surround, then we have an opinion and are able to vote on whether or not that's appropriate. But whether they put 2 or 3 shrubs or no shrubs, it's in the gray zone for me. I would like to see whether or not we object to, what Elizabeth is proposing, what the trustees are proposing is a dirt ramp, and Elizabeth tried to choose an area where it had the minimal incline, if I'm correct, Elizabeth, right?
That's correct, Harry.
So the minimal impact in terms of trying to make the ramp for handicap access. And it just happened that translated to the front of that patio. There's limitations as to the design of the railing. I think Ryan and the vertical members, I think that's clearly in bounds. We have a jurisdiction over that. We have to then evaluate whether we want to solidify the architectural element of that ramp, and how does it compete with the front entrance, the other side entrance, the columns, the other architectural pieces, the side door, and so on, or is it congruent? Is it help it? Does it enhance the total picture? That's what we're really trying to understand, in my mind.
Harry,
Well,
this is Leslie.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
I think that we don't have a lot of choice here. I think because it has to be the code, and I think they've chosen the best place and the most practical place for it. I think that whether or not shrubs go around it is not going to be a big decision on our part either. I think when it's up, they may decide that they want it, but I don't think that's really up to us. I think that when people are there and this is up, it's one of those things that is so common these days that it will disappear in people's minds. Physically, obviously, it will be there, but it isn't something that people really pay attention to unless they need to find it for their own use. So I think that they've done about as well as they're going to do with solving this problem. And it's a problem that has to be solved. There is no choice here, that they have to have some kind of an access. So I would go ahead with their plan.
Now, the only thing, Leslie, the only thing that comes into question is, whether or not we feel that the placement of where that ramp is something that we would agree with, i.e. the front of the house.
That's what I was just going to ask. So if the door that everyone's going to be filtered to isn't even the door at the top of the ramp, but a door near the back, is there any reason why the back or closer to that door wasn't chosen for the ramp?
Yes, there is, and I'll let Elizabeth explain that.
Okay.
And I think that's a legitimate question. That's a legitimate question, but there is a reason why they chose the placement where they did. And Elizabeth, why don't you give us the logic behind that decision?
Sure. So there's two different, well, in total, there are three options that we looked at. One is a path that goes up through the perennial garden, which would be closest to that visitor door. However, that is an iconic view of the house. There is not currently any path that runs through that area. It's just a lawn mass. It's actually one of our most iconic views of the house. So we wanted to stay away from that. Also, it's too steep. So the other option that we considered, if you look at the ADA handrail and path lights plan, you can see that there's a path that runs through the promenade straight up to the house. And there's an existing tree that the path runs right by. So that tree, it's a larch. It was there when the family lived there. So it's a historically significant tree. So rather than regrading that area to make it an accessible grade and hurt the root system of that tree, we located the path, the ADA path, on the other side of the patio. Does everyone understand the area that I'm looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, that all makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. I agree.
So the question of the placement of where they've chosen to put the ramp, the railings pretty much are dictated by code. The question I'm trying to get to here is I would like to include this in the motion for approval. If the commission feels that the members would like to see additional materials, I'm not objecting to that, but we will have to continue the meeting prior to be able to vote, just at least for the handrail piece of this. So I would like to hear from the commission in terms of what their thoughts are.
Harry, this is Roger. I am fine with how it's being presented right now. I think it's
Okay.
simple. The location is right on. I've been going on visiting that property for 50 years or so. I was there last Sunday snowshoeing.
Yeah.
And the grade is steep in the back.
Yeah.
Earlier I mentioned possibly some plantings to help hide the rail, but that I think we're better off with if it's just grass as it's presented. I've done a lot of this type of work at my employer, Phillips Academy, right? All these historic buildings, and it's
Yep.
simple. You know, we don't have shrubs and plantings in front of handrails in similar applications like this.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, in the 70s, the grounds manager went crazy with plantings along the foundation. All those ripped out in the last 5 or 6 years because that is not how the original campus was laid out. Simplicity is really important here.
Harry, this is Kathy. I just had one question. How is a person in a wheelchair getting from the road up to the entrances of the house and then on the dirt road and then up the ramp?
Okay, I'll let Elizabeth answer that.
Sure. So the new parking lot, which is off Chickering Road, is where our handicapped parking is located.
So nobody parking over across the street who is handicapped. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right, Kathy.
Do they know that? Would there be a sign over there to tell them that this is the inappropriate place to park?
Yes, yes. We will actually have a temporary sign up there that says that there's no parking at that chestnut lot for visitors.
Oh, so no visitors at all can park over there?
That's correct. Our visitors will all park off of the Chickering Road entrance.
What are you going to use there across the street? What are you going to use it for?
We're not sure yet. We're still working to figure that out, Kathy. There's you know, a lot of folks involved in that. There's a wetland adjacent to that, so the Conservation Commission is involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible the planning board would be involved. So that's a can of worms that we have not yet dug into.
Thank you for answering the question.
One of the other things, Leslie again, one of the other things I think is important is when you have handicap access, it has to be a similar feel to where everybody goes. And if you're putting this next to the front door, it doesn't make the handicapped feel as though they're second-class citizens. It feels as though they're being accommodated in an appropriate and respectful way. So I like the idea that it's not been hidden off somewhere else. I think it needs to be visible to them, easy to find. Access is going to be tough. It's going to be a long way for them to get from the
Yeah.
parking lot to
That's
the.
what I was just going to ask is how far from the Chickering Road parking lot? That's quite a distance to where that ramp is.
It is. I'm not sure exactly how far it is, but we have some really beautiful new garden rooms along the entire path. So the idea, I think, is that people would be traveling that way anyway and sort of understanding that this is a public garden property. And so they're there to traverse the landscape.
It is the nature of the place, right?
This is Mike.
Yeah.
I agree with the as it's presented in black without any plantings. I think it's fine.
Okay. Ryan, how about you?
I'm sorry, Harry, you say Ryan?
Yeah.
I'm struggling with I get the concept of trying to blend it in. It just seems like a metal, everything being metal just doesn't go with it. I would love to see those black vertical pieces, maybe have just those be square to match the pillar you see in this picture, like a miniature version of it. Just something to dress it up. Just the whole metal black railing, the whole thing being metal and black. It just bothers me. I know what they're trying to say is it's going to blend in, but the reality is it's not going to blend in. You're going to walk by there, you're going to blatantly see it. And I just would love to see something to dress it up. Again, quick Google search on National Historic sites. Every handicap railing that you see is dressed up, whether it's with stone or with iron railing, or, an iron fence, wrought iron fence. Just something. I'd love to. I think the easiest thing is maybe those vertical pieces just be wood that matches those pillars somehow. And then you'll keep the railing side of it, the black. That's fine, but just something to dress it up, in my opinion. I don't like that it's so plain, but that's me.
Do you also mean like the wrought iron little rail on the front of the house?
What was that?
No, I was just talking, just trying to keep it to this handicap railing, but.
No. I mean, do you mean putting black vertical that could look similar to the wrought iron rail that's at the front of the house?
Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah, but I think again, they're trying to blend it in. So I get, try and keep as much open as you can there. So maybe not wrought iron all the way through, but just something to dress up those vertical poles. Just the basic vertical poles just doesn't go with the house. There's nothing we can do on the actual handicap railing, right? That has to be what it is. But the vertical pieces, it's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that's struggling with
No,
this.
I agree with you. I support something myself, so you're not the only one per se.
Okay, so Elizabeth, is that something that you could provide some level of rendering to us and have us review?
Yes, yeah, I can, I think as we discussed earlier, I think it would be best if I did a rendering of the southwest face of the house. So you can see in the landscape, in that significant view, what it will look like in the landscape.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I would have to put some thought into what we might do to dress it up.
Yep.
I'd have to put some thought into that, Harry.
Okay. All right. So at a minimum, we can get an updated with the sod all in place and what that might look like. And then if you could give some thought to any way to dress it up or some options that you might think make sense, and then we'll take a look at it. But I mean, I'm hearing from the commission without a vote that fundamentally a ramp where it's placed, there didn't seem to be any major objections. Clearly, the railing itself is dictated by the requirements. So it's just this final piece of, whether, we leave it the way that it is, or whether there's some level of increasing its architectural presence as an element, and whether or not we want to go in that direction. So what I'm going to do, Elizabeth, is we'll continue this piece. We won't have to, rescheduling it because it's a continuance. We do not have to go through the whole process again of a legal notice and so forth and so on. Are there constraints, let me ask you, on this particular piece of the application in terms of timing?
I mean, I certainly had hoped that we could close tonight.
I know.
That's always how it is. Projects are always on a tight timeline.
Yep. Well, I can have Bernadette look at the North Andover's CAM's schedule. And how long would you need to?
I mean, I could send updated rendering tomorrow. I'd have to make another site visit. Yeah, I think I could send something by the end of the day tomorrow.
Okay.
Harry, could we just add this to our agenda on the January 20th meeting?
Well,
Because it would be pretty quick.
Yeah, that's possible, but I think Elizabeth's schedule was that this is part of the winter project to get done actually prior to the winter. We are in the winter, and I think that they were hoping to be able to complete this piece of the project sooner than later. And if you're at the third week of January, it'll make it really challenging to try to finish this piece of the project.
Harry, if we get renderings tomorrow, is it possible for us to look at them and for us to vote independently over email, or can't we do that?
No, you can't do that.
Okay.
We need to have it in a public hearing
Okay.
format. I can continue the meeting, Leslie.
Yeah.
I can reschedule to Thursday, but that's
No.
Christmas Eve. That's Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
I could even, let me just as an example say I could schedule it till tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But what's required is that North Andover CAM has to have a slot open in order for us to schedule.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I don't know that off the top of my head.
Sure.
We'll have to go back to them and see when they're available.
I don't think anyone would be doing work on the railing over the holidays anyway, so I don't think I see the issue continuing the meeting after the holidays.
Would everybody please mute your microphone so we can all hear the one speaker that's speaking? Thanks.
I think it's the somebody has a second device going in the background that they just need to turn down.
Sounds better now.
Harry, is this something that the commission would vote on, or does it require, I guess I'm just trying to figure out if there's any way we could close tonight. Although I will absolutely make whatever the commission decides needs to happen.
Well, let me ask you this question. I mean, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to be creative myself.
I appreciate
Maybe help me with this piece, Elizabeth. If we were to vote tonight, let's say that A, we agree with the placement, and A, we agree with the placement, B, we agree with the railing. But we leave open, we can do this with a vote, that you have to come back to us on the decision of whether or not further masking would be required. Would there be anything in what you would propose, either vertical members or otherwise, that would prohibit you from installing the railing the way that it is? Or would you have to do some preparatory work prior to installation? Like if you introduced, let's say that it went down this pathway of some additional vertical member. Are you going to need modifications prior to the time of installation, or would you install it and then put it on as a secondary? That's what I'm trying to get to.
I think we could certainly figure out how to put it on as a secondary. And, of course, if the commission decides vegetation is required, that's easy to do after.
Well, I mean, in that case, we could structure the motion so that we at least allow you the opportunity to get it in the ground.
Harry, I got a quick question for Elizabeth. Elizabeth, do you have any events between now and January 20th?
Any events? No.
So I'm just curious. I mean, other than the compliance of ADA, what is the rush to get this? I mean, the ground is already partially frozen. We're already into winter. I don't understand the rush of it.
The rush is just, this is the one outstanding piece of this project that was supposed to be completed this fall. So that's the only, from my end, that's the only reason why it feels like a rush.
Okay. So my struggle with it is this should have come to us then way back late summer. And unfortunately, and it's not your fault. I mean, you have a lot of properties that you deal with. You didn't understand you had to go through this process, but that's not the fault of us. I don't think we should have to rush because of that. That's my opinion of it.
Sure, that's absolutely true.
All right.
Harry?
Yes.
Harry, one more thing, Leslie.
Yes.
Is it possible for us just to take a vote tonight and see how the numbers come out on this? Or do you want it unanimous?
No, I think you have to vote on the totality. If we're going to allow the installation, then we can vote. If we're not, and I respect Ryan's position. If we need to see some more for people to feel comfortable to close out discussion and then call for the motion, then that's what we should do. And I can ask Bernadette tomorrow to see the earliest time, Elizabeth, after the holidays. We do have a meeting scheduled on the 20th of January, but for the continuation, we don't have to wait till that meeting. All we need to do is to get another date that's available. So sometime between. Yes?
So Harry, when you were asking people before about their availability, I thought most people thought after the New Week, somewhere around the 12th would work. Was there a reason that we didn't pick that? Could we do the continuance then?
There is some reasons. One of those dates, the North Andover CAM, that was not available for us. With with virtual meetings for the town, there is a priority in terms of certain, Board of Selectmen meeting obviously would bump us, as an example. So there are, everybody's jockeying for the slots. But let me see, I'll work with Bernadette. I'll get a couple of options. I'll try to see between now and then. I mean, we may be able to do it right after the first, but let me see. I think we need to look at what's available. So that's where we'll leave that. Elizabeth, can we look at the lighting and see
Yeah.
if we can get the lighting? Because I have less than 45 minutes, and we also have another application that's been
Okay.
patiently waiting.
All right. Let
So
me,
maybe this one won't be as challenging, hopefully. But what document would you like us to open? You
there's
do have one called Patty Brothers Lighting.
Yeah,
You
that's
want us to
exactly.
open that document?
Yes, please.
Okay. So can everybody access the Patty Brothers document that's in the share folder?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see it.
All right. So this part of the application is, I'll do the introduction, Elizabeth, for this piece of it. It is for illuminating the front of the building, meaning the face of the building that is on Andover Street. So as you're driving down Andover Street, the face of the building would be illuminated. There's some lighting on the building now, but this is to enhance that sort of experience and light up the facade of the building. So Elizabeth, with that, I will let you walk us through the plan.
Sure. So the images that I have attached here in this JPEG are from our lighting consultant. I asked them to provide images of, a precedent project that they've worked on. So this is not a photo of Stevens Coolidge Place. It's a similar condition. So it's it gives you an idea of what it might look like. The fixtures themselves would be hidden behind that stone wall, so you wouldn't be able to see those. You would just see the wash of light on the facade on Andover Street. Of course, the goal of lighting the facade of the building would be to increase its presence on Andover Street as a important historic building of North Andover. And then, of course, the lights themselves would be under specific operations. They would not be all night long. Likely, they would turn on at around dusk and turn off around 8 or 9. And I'm trying to think, Kathy, is there anything else that I'm missing about this piece?
No, I think it also has a bit about security and also for either guests or staff that might be in that area at that time. I think if people have driven by recently, you'll see how the front door and the pediment have been lit for the holidays.
Yep. Yep.
Kind of gives you a sense.
Yeah, that's right. So Kathy has it lit as a temporary situation right now for the winter stroll event.
Yep.
So actually, I mean, if folks have driven by there recently at nighttime, that's a pretty good sense of what it would be like.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true. I've driven
This
by.
is
I have
Kathy
driven by.
Siska. I
Yeah.
just had a question. Have you connected with the neighbors to say this is what we wanted to do, and what was their response?
I can respond to that. We have sent out notice, and we actually expanded the abutters list of people to be notified. A, that this was going to happen, and B, that they've got the information for this, Kathy. And so I did do that, and I was very sensitive to that. And so it was a little more far-reaching than we normally do because of that. Because Elizabeth and Catherine, they both as representing this. There is a level of sensitivity to the district in saying, yeah, you're entering into the district on Andover Street, and we already have the North Parish, which is illuminated, right, in the old center, far greater than this structure. But now you're illuminating another structure, and so there was a lot of sensitivity in saying, so what would that do in terms of the overall perception of people would have and the feel that people would have coming into the district from Andover Street. And so I think all the appropriate notifications are in place. And I just checked my email to see if there were any questions coming from the public or from the abutters, and there has been no inquiries or questions that have come up. So,
Okay, the reason why I asked is because this historic house is right smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood. This is not like the North Parish Church that has been illuminated for years, which is not exactly in the middle of a neighborhood. So that's why I inquired.
and I appreciate that. So,
And have the neighbors been happy with the illumination of the December festivities at the house with all those lights lit?
well, we have not, as a commission, received any further feedback from them. I can't comment on anybody else, but I can say
Kathy, I
that.
don't know if you've heard anything from I certainly have not heard any negative things from the neighbors.
Yeah.
I have.
Who said that?
Kathy. I heard from one family in particular, they were very upset about it. And I'm not going to give names because they didn't give me permission to use their names on this public meeting.
So this is Kathy McDonald, the director. I had at least 2 sets of neighbors enjoying our holiday stroll. And as far as the streetscape is going, the only lights that you can really see are the lights of the front door and the pediment, which are lit right now. And you certainly can look down the street and see 2 other houses in this historic district lit up about 4 times as we are on the streetscape. And actually one of them won a contest for doing so. So it looks to me like people are enjoying lights and participating themselves.
Well, the reason why I brought it up is because I feel we as a commission have to represent people in the neighborhood. And as I said, I only got one complaint about it, and that's why I asked.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
All right, so
Sorry, go ahead.
So Elizabeth, can I open it up for discussion at this point?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I'm going to open up for discussion in terms of what people's thoughts are about the illumination of the facade of the historic building.
This is Mike. I think it's incredibly appropriate, and I think it will. It's not harsh or glaring. I think it's a very subtle looking light from what the photograph shows, and I think it would highlight the historic architecture of the building, and I'm all for it. And I'm a bit on that side of the fence because I have that sort of lighting on my own home, and I think it really enhances the architectural importance of these old homes.
Yep. Anybody else?
Harry, it's Ryan. I have to agree with Mike. I think it's going to really add to this property. I think it really showcases it, especially when you come down from Chestnut Street to see that all lit up. I think would be a great look. My only question would be on the other side of the rock wall where those lights are. Are they like right next to the wall, or are they more in towards like the other side of the path?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think you didn't. No, it's not in this rendering. I
No,
was
it's
looking at the map.
well, it's not
But
the-
Elizabeth, you can talk to it. Go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead.
The fixtures themselves, we don't know exactly where they would be located specifically, if they would be, right next to the wall or closer to the house. It would be something we would work through, of course, with our lighting consultant.
Okay. And I trust you. I mean, you guys have done a great job with that property, so I trust that you would put this in the right spot. So I think it's a great idea. I think it would add value.
Okay.
So this is Kim. So are we saying then that these photographs aren't really representative of what, in other words, in these two photographs, I see the light element on the grass, and then I see the amount that the house is lit up. Are those then not the representation that we're evaluating?
Well, it's an example. I asked Elizabeth, because pictures give they give a better understanding of intent. So I asked her to find for us, as part of the application, an example or two of uplighting on a historic home or building that was already in place. So it's just to represent what the intent of what they're trying to do. So I don't think it's meant to say this is it and this is the actual rendering. I think this is an example.
So we don't really know then the brightness. We don't really know the brightness or anything.
Well, I think, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Oh, I was just going to say, so these images were provided by our lighting consultant when I asked them, what we need to provide an example of what it will look like. So I can't say this is going to be exactly the same, but this is our lighting consultant's understanding of what it's going to look like, or what their expectation is of what it will look like.
And this is Mike. I think from their decision perspective, they have to decide whether they're going to have it as a wash or as an uplight, because the closer to the building and the more vertical the light, the more shadows are cast. But the further back, the more of a wash it's going to be in the. So we found that ours are right up almost next to the house, and they shine straight up. So every clapboard has a shadow all the way up to the gutter rim along the edge of the roof. So it shows off more of the lines of the house rather than just being a wash white.
Harry, it's Leslie. There's a difference between what Michael's talking about and the difference to what it is now, which is an emphasis just on the door and the archway. It's very dramatic right now, but they're two different approaches, and I would just like to know if Elizabeth has an idea of the approach that they're looking for, one way or another. Is it an overall lighting of the whole facade, or is it more emphasis on the door? Do you know, Elizabeth?
What I've spoken with our lighting consultant about is a wash of the building facade.
Okay, yeah, that's going to be different from what it is right now, which is beautiful for this time of year. And I don't know if you'd have the option at some point to do that, to have it just spotlight the door during the holidays, that kind of thing. I'm happy either way. I think it's wonderful to call attention to the building. It is an important structure, and it's something we're very proud of. So having it lit is totally appropriate to me.
Do we know what the illumination is going to be? Like the, what do you call it? The lumens? You've probably picked that even if you haven't picked the location.
No, I don't know what the lumens are. It's a language I do not speak. It's certainly something I could provide once we understand what the proposal would be. But it's not something I have off the top of my head, is what I'm getting.
Well, I could also imagine that they're going to, there'll be a little bit of, as Mike was helping us understand, there'll probably be a little bit of sort of playing with it, you know, once they try to get the optimal placement of the lighting, right? I mean, so they're going to have to move things around a little bit and try different things, as you mentioned, and so they want to maximize the impact, right? So I don't know if we have all of that information. They may say, oh, you know, 3 lights across the building structure or surface will be enough. Or they may say 5 lights might be necessary. I don't know that they can just spec it out. They've got to try it, I think, right?
I guess I think that would be the only thing that neighbors might notice or have issue with is just the brightness of the lumens, not necessarily the placement or whether it's up against the house or back or showing off clapboards or whatever. I'm thinking more the brightness. That's what I'm really thinking about. Because I think the holiday lights, to be honest, are for my opinion, they're not as bright as spotlights could be. So I guess it does depend on the power of the lumens, the total amount of brightening it's going to be. That's all that neighbors might care about.
Roger?
Yes, Harry, I'm in favor of the lighting at night. I think it would definitely enhance the building. That is something other commission members have mentioned. It would enhance the building. Certainly, we would want to shut these lights off 8, 9 p.m. I think that's very reasonable. As far as the brightness or the coloring, if you will, I'm wondering if these, I assume they'll be LED lights, and if they are, I would be in favor of something that's rated in the 3000 range, which is a warmer lamp, versus a 5 would be more white. Okay, so I have installed a lot of LED lighting, and the lower the number, it's typically 3000 to 5000. The lower the number, it's warmer. So I'd be in favor of a warmer lighting, if you will. Thank you.
Okay. Elizabeth, would that be something that we could ensure that it was on the warmer side?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's really good advice.
Okay.
And I, it makes sense.
We won't. I appreciate what the input Roger just gave us. We won't. I don't, Roger. I don't know if we would want to specify the number, but if we could, in a motion, say that, you know, for example, that we would approve a wash of the building facade with the lighting being on the warmer side of the spectrum.
I would be fine with that. I think that would be great. Yeah.
Would that be something, Elizabeth, that would,
Yes,
if
yes.
we made a motion and that way could work with you working with the consultants?
Yes.
That eliminate, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that 4,000 lumens is apparently more like daylight.
Okay. I'm not a lighting expert. I know, Mike, you and Roger have had, and maybe other folks have had the firsthand experience. But if we say the warmer side of the spectrum, that would certainly get us there, I think. Right, Mike?
Yes.
All
That
right.
helps me. I appreciate that
Okay.
parameter that Mike knows about.
Is there any other comments before I make a motion?
Would that eliminate the possibility of having a spotlight on at Christmas like they do now? Are we saying that? Or
No, we're
or,
not saying that. What we're saying is that they have an option. If they choose to do that, Leslie, they can do that. You know, if there are special events or holidays and they choose to want to do that, that's fine. The concern we had was more entering into the district with an illuminated facade. That would be you know, an expansion of current lighting and whether or not there would be issue with that.
okay.
All right. So since I put the words down, I'll make the motion, and then so I'll make a motion that for 137 Andover Street to be able to install lighting that would wash the building facade, providing a warmer side of the spectrum.
This is
Harry,
Roger. I'll
just a
second
point-
that.
Harry, just
sorry?
a point of order. I think if it's Roger's rules, I don't think you can make the motion. It has to be somebody on the chairperson can't make the motion, I think.
Oh, okay.
But I'll make that motion for you.
Thank you. Okay, I need a second.
This is Roger. I'd be more than happy to second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any objections? No objections? Okay, then the motion passes. All right. So
Harry, we have to make a motion to continue the other part, correct?
I have to make a motion for the other part, yes. Would you like
I'll
to
make a motion. Sure, I'll make a motion that we continue the handicap ramp for 137 Andover Street.
Second,
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
objections? Okay. All right, so I think Elizabeth and Catherine were done for this evening.
Thank you so much for your time.
I can, yeah, and so Elizabeth, I'll get together with you in the next day or two and see what availability for the continuance might look like. And I'll then ask the rest of the commission members of their availability. I will also say to the commission, if we get, because this is a large commission with 9 members, if we get a quorum, all we need is 5 members. Will everybody be okay with that in order to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you,
Yeah.
Catherine, for your time this evening.
Thank you all for your time. Really appreciate
Okay.
it.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Willow, are you still with us?
I am, yes. Can you hear me? Hopefully I'm unmuted.
I can. So
Okay, wonderful.
Going to the next, and we have about 20 minutes, which hopefully we could do this. The next agenda item is for an application on 190 Academy Road, and that's the North Parish. And the application is for the addition of a fence along Great Pond Road and the property between the North Parish and their abutters. So I'll turn it over to, there is a share folder. Does everybody have access to the share folder for this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So Willow's going to walk us through. Willow actually put together most of the plan, if not all of the plan. And there's a document that's titled, what, Academy Road 2? Is that the one, Willow, that we're gonna look at?
When I just received the email this evening, I went in and I opened it up, and it looks like it says, NP Church HDCCA application completed,
Yes.
-1. Okay.
Yes, I got it. Does everybody have that document? 11/23/20 NP Church HDCCA application completed?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So if you open that up and go to page 2, wait, 1, 2, page 3. Willow, you could take us through.
Okay, and that's the narrative, Harry?
Yes.
Okay, okay, terrific. Hi, everyone. My name is Willow Cheeley. I'm a volunteer at North Parish Church. Thank you so much for letting me speak with you this evening. I'll try and be brief. What we're hoping to do, if you actually go down, it says narrative. You see some pictures of some of our volunteers there. You go to the next one, there's some more pictures of some plants, and then you'll see the existing conditions plan after that. So if you take a look at the Google image to the left, you'll see that triangular area that shows you where the project area is. And so that's a triangle of property that has been orphaned a little bit. We have fencing that goes around a play area, but due to budget constraints and other issues, the fencing does not extend to all the way to the extent of our property. And it really doesn't need to either. So what we'd like to do is to recapture that triangle. Unfortunately, right now it has invasives in it. People throw their trash there when they drive by, and it looks a little lonely. The town will also push snow into that triangle and dig up the dirt, and it doesn't look, it looks a little abandoned. So we'd like to recapture that. And the way that we like to do that is first to put up a split rail fence. And if you look at the next one, it says Triangle Planting Plan P1. You can show that you can see that we're proposing to put the split rail fence along Great Pond Road, and then also to delineate our property with our neighbors. And along Great Pond Road there, you'll see there's a gap on the left and a gap on the right. The gap on the left is a little bit of a access point for us. We do actually maintain the slope that's to the left of that image along Great Pond Road. We have a Monarch Way Station, a pollinator garden that the kids really love, and also for church services, cars park there. So we go in and we use a string mower and make sure that that's all neat and tidy. And we go in and out of that gap on the left. You'll see also on the left, there's a little W or an M shape. That's the chain link gate that accesses the back portion of our play area, or what we call our backyard. To the right of that fence on Great Pond Road, you'll see another gap, and that's where we're going to leave access open for vehicles. If we ever needed to pull in a vehicle to access that chain link fence to drop off supplies, or heaven forbid, have to pick up a kid if there's an emergency and get them out of there, that's a really convenient place for vehicles to be able to get in and out. So there's a gap on that side too. And then the piece of split rail fence that goes along the abutters line there is just to make sure we all know where our lines are, and just kind of mark that there. It'll also then put a piece of fencing at the edge of Great Pond Road at that point, and I'm hoping that will also help mark our property and say, hey, this whole piece is ours. And you can see an example of the split rail fence that we're proposing on that Triangle Planting Plan P1 on the left. You see image number 1. It's a type of fence that actually exists right now over at Wire Hill. There's my husband standing in the image there for scale. And image number 2 is sort of what it looks like when it first goes in. It will age. We're not planning on painting it or anything. And it'll kind of, it'll ease into the landscape over time as it ages, like we all do. So those are those two plans right there. And then if you go up to the narrative, there's just a quick description of what we'll be doing to the landscape itself. We'll be having volunteers out there digging up enough of that soil area to be able to plant. We're going to be doing majority natives there. We've already talked to the Conservation Commission I've actually started seedlings. I don't know if you know that historic American sycamore that's right on Great Pond Road. I've managed to get seedlings from that started. So we're really excited about being able to put the next generation of tree there. That tree's probably about 300 years old. And so we'll hopefully put the next generation out there to grow, which will be really fantastic. So that's a quick run through. I don't want to take too much more of your time. Please let me know if I can answer any questions for you.
Great job. Thank you. So just before we get into the discussion, you just mentioned there would be one section of fence along Great Pond Road at the point.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. That sort of it's hard. I can't point. So
okay.
if you look at the piece of split rail fence that's on the abutter line, so looking left to right on the back piece, if you follow that left line all the way to the right, that fence will become more visible. It won't actually be on Great Pond Road, but if you connect the dot of that end fence point and the end fence point that's on Great Pond Road, it'll help define that as our property. I didn't want to bring the fence all the way across and literally do it. It's sort of a way of saying, this is ours, this is owned, this is a consistent piece of fencing. And then of course the planting will further define that. So the fence is there as a just kind of a visual cue for people. And also I'm hoping for the planting material that we're putting up that'll be actually protective for it. It is up a slope a little bit, but we're hoping it'll be a little bit of protection for any of the new small trees that we're putting in and some of the shrubs.
You know, and I had one other question, Willow, before I open it up for discussion. So I noticed on the delineation between the property lines, it stops right at the wetland, the wetland buffer line. Is that because of the wetland? Or why didn't you? Why didn't you go all the way? Why didn't you continue on the left to make it more symmetrical, if you will, with the Great Pond Road fencing?
Sure. So a couple of reasons. Firstly, the condition of the landscape changes there. So the butters mow that line. So there's a clear line of lawn, and then we're proposing to put the fence. It changes. It becomes our property, and it becomes a little bit more wooded. As you get to the left there, it becomes all wooded going up to that existing stone wall that's there. So and it actually reads much more like our property at that point. So there's really no need for this fence to go visually. It's also that particular one is slightly down slope. So it's more of a cue for our neighbors with their lawnmowers than it is necessarily to give you any sort of visual continuity from Great Pond Road. You really won't see it as much.
Yeah, and have you given any thought to any of like transitional sections at the ends? Meaning, you know, going from the total height of 3 feet down to, you know, a sort of like a diagonal section to help with the
We haven't because we're going to be using the plantings. We're also, you know, holding out. We may add to it in the future if anything changes. So it's really, you know, in the future, maybe on that left-hand side, maybe a gate would make sense at some point, although I don't think it would. And it also, there's that other fence on the left side, which is a more traditional white picket fence. So I honestly didn't give much thought to the transitions. We certainly can, but yeah, it wasn't a thought for us.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to open it up because we have like 11 minutes. So anyone want to make comments?
Harry, it's Ryan. I just want to fully understand. This is page 6 is the one that shows the fences, correct? Is that the best one to look at this with?
Yeah, yes, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah. Page 6.
All right, I was having a little trouble following, but I think I caught up.
Nope, you're there.
So Harry, this is Kim. So I just want to say that I actually like that they've chosen natural wood split rail, and I like that they're not trying to box it or make it look, they're trying to blend it into the environment, and that they're going to put native plantings. So I liked the way it was presented and what the ideas are.
Okay. Others?
This is Leslie. I think it's a great proposal. It is a bit of a lost section there. It always looks orphaned. So it will be nice to have that cared for, and a split rail will just disappear into the landscape and be totally appropriate. So I'm all for it.
Harry, Roger here. I agree with Leslie's comments. It'll blend into the hillside quite nicely, and you won't even really notice the fence once it weathers, and the plantings will certainly help as well. I'm all in favor of this.
And this is Mike. I'm also in favor of it. I think it's perfect.
This is Lori. I also agree.
Kathy? Siska?
I think we lost Kathy a little while ago.
We did?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so I think everybody's had a chance to comment. Yep. All right. So if everybody's done with any questions that they may have, then we can put out a motion. I can't do it, so.
Harry, I'll put forward the motion for you. This is Ryan. I make a motion that we approve the fence for 190 Academy Road.
Yep. And do you want to, per our 11/23/20 application document?
Yeah, so per the document, referencing 11/23/20 NP Church HDC CA application completed -1.
Okay, do I have a
I
second?
second.
Do I
I
have a-
second.
Who was that? Who said second?
That's Kim. Kim, sorry.
Thank you, Kim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody,
Aye.
anybody
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? No. Okay, the motion passes. So Willow, the motion is passed, and I just want to say, Willow, I think that this was a very well done plan. I mean, it's.
Yeah, thank you.
I've read through this, and it's very thorough, very well done. You did a good
Thank
job.
you. And thank you again so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So we will. I will issue you a copy of the certificate of appropriateness. I will be copying Bernadette so that it will be part of the application, and it goes to the town clerk as well. So you'll get that in the next couple of days to have for you to get the building permit.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you, and happy
Thank you.
holidays for you as
Yep.
well.
Same.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Willow.
We literally got 3 minutes here, so let's go back to our agenda. New business? Do we have any new business?
Harry, just a quick question. When are we going to address the sign issues with properties within the historic district?
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny. I was thinking the same thing.
So it's a great question, and I didn't answer your email either. So it's a great topic. We're in an open meeting, and I wish we had more time. But let me just briefly tell the commission. I have had a conversation, excuse me, with the director, Andrew, of Andrew's. We fall under Andrew as the director of development. And I spoke with him for quite some depth, and we've got a lot of non-compliances going on in the district. I mean, I've taken several walks now because walking is the thing to do, and I was appalled by how many non-compliances we have. They're everywhere, not just the signs. So what I think we're going to do is I would like everybody to jot down on their list the list of non-compliances that they find within the district. And I think we're going to use, and we're going to have a separate meeting on this. We should talk about significant non-compliances, and we're going to have to define what a significant non-compliance might look like, and some that are sort of, I don't want to say a minor, but a minor non-compliance may be one that, yes, it's a non-compliance. Yes, they should have filled us for a certificate of appropriateness, but we're going to send out to all of the property owners within the district a new copy of the bylaws and a notification that there was non-compliance. On the significant ones, we're probably going to have to sit and talk about what actions we're going to want to see taken or not taken. And for those that are significant that we are going to need action, whether we're going to either require a certificate, whether we're going to require reversal in some cases of those non-compliances on an extreme side of it. We're going to have to sit with our building inspector, who is in charge of enforcement, and with Andrew, and kind of he said he'd be more than happy to attend the meeting, and we would have to have a plan put together. So I think that is the best path forward for us, because I think we've got a significant amount of issues.
That includes the Stevens Coolidge house itself, right? In their little placard they put on the sidewalk.
They're aware of that. They are aware of that.
Oh, good.
They're aware that the signage is an issue, and I've been told that a lot of the signage is going to move more toward their visitor center, if you will. But they're aware that signage was not previously brought through the commission. They also have other outstanding things that they are aware that need to come in front of the commission. This was just, Elizabeth is for landscaping, and she has the landscaping plan, but there are other pieces that are hanging out there that they haven't got to, that need to be done. I mean, some of you may have noticed that little red shed. It entered into it was moved. It was further back behind the property, and it moved forward. I was told that it's not going to stay there, but if it's there for greater than 90 days, it's not temporary. So there are. First of all, Stevens Coolidge is aware of their list of things that are on the commission's radar. But in addition to that, you can walk through the district, and we've got all kinds of things happening, and I don't want to get into the laundry list right now, because that's not the purpose. I think we have to put them all down and then have a conversation about them and what we want to do.
Hey, Harry.
I appreciate you addressing that, Harry. I think that's great.
This is Mike. I'm sorry, I have to jump off.
That's okay. That's okay.
Thank you.
So is there any other new business that anybody wants to talk about? I mean, are people okay with that approach to try to address some of the non-compliances that we have?
Yeah.
Yes, that sounds fine, Harry. Good idea.
Yeah, because we have to have a short-term goal and a long-term goal. I mean, there'll always be non-compliance. I mean, you don't totally eliminate that, but I think the total number of non-compliances we're seeing is definitely increasing, and people are not abiding by rules, you know, so. Well, anyways, it is 8 o'clock. We need a motion to end the meeting.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, second,
I second.
thank you.
Leslie.
I wish everybody a safe and wonderful holiday. We have a very important meeting on the 20th of January. That is going to be one of our most important meetings, I think, that we've had in a long time. So we will not be voting. There's no vote because there's not enough detail. But I do encourage everybody to, you know, walk the property, look at the application, and be prepared to have a discussion on appropriateness of putting a new home on the district. So that's it. So everybody have
Thank you,
a
Harry.
great holiday.
Yep, bye-bye
Thank you.
now.
Bye-bye.
Yep, same to all of you.
Thank you, Harry. You as well.
Thank
Bye-bye
you.
now.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.